Good morning, you guys. How are you doing?
Good,
Morning.
Melanie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So nice to see you back this week, Steve. I hope you had a great weekend.
I did, thanks. How was yours? It was good.
It was very good, thank you. A little snowy, a little cold, but we got through. And
Good.
also just want to welcome you today, Shawna, to our video. Thank you for being a part of our talk today.
Yeah, thanks for having me today. Great.
Good. So, Shawna, you can, I'll just introduce Shawna. Shawna actually is a diversity engagement consultant. That's a really fancy word for job developer. And Shawna and I and some of the other crew actually, when COVID happened, we actually had to sit down and brainstorm and try to be creative about how we're going to continue providing services. And I think, Shawna, you'll agree with me, I think it was the general consensus that we had to continue providing services for people, and we couldn't leave them just hanging. So why don't you sort of provide some comments about when it first started and what your initial thoughts were about it?
Sure. So I think when we went into lockdown, it was the notifying all of the candidates and letting them know this week's meetings are canceled. Let's see how next week goes. Because we didn't know it was at the beginning. And so that was fine. Everybody was okay with that. The next week came, we're still not meeting. So we start just by, 20-minute check-ins. And after a few more weeks, I think it wasn't enough for people. You have people looking for employment, they're already isolated, and now maybe I was the only person they got to see every week, outside of their immediate family. So that's when we decided, I believe it was at the end of March, I called Steve and said, what do you think of doing online job search group? Maybe there's no jobs right now, but let's talk about what the changing world. So technology, that was a big barrier, but as we soon discovered very quickly, it was not a barrier anymore. Zoom is free.
I think we kind of came up with all these assumptions about preconceived challenges that didn't exist. And the one that I think for me that I'm, shamefully, I have to admit that I kind of thought that people would really have a lot of difficulties handling the technology. And much to our surprise, they didn't.
They could teach a class on Zoom now.
Absolutely.
We're going to add it to everybody's resume.
Well, and the technology today is so user-friendly, like Zoom, Skype, Facebook, FaceTime, so user-friendly that thankfully it just makes it easier to get plugged in and connected with other people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think, Shawna, I'm sure you agree with me. I think one of the added benefits we found is that people really gravitated towards our virtual sessions.
Yeah.
For that way of connecting with other people. And so, Shawna, like we had chatted about it lots, that doing these activities virtually actually is a lot better than having them come to our office and meet physically. Yeah. It's a lot more convenient. Our attendance rate.
Oh, attendance is always good.
90%, it's always good.
Yeah.
And then, Shawna, maybe you could describe. Maybe you could describe about the click and connect and how that worked.
Well, that came almost immediately. So myself and former coworker Bernadette, we got together the job search group. Then we decided to take the interview prep that we did in-house, put it online. So we split it up into 3-week sessions. And then she said, what do you think of a workshop where it's nothing to do with jobs? It's just connecting, conversation starters, we'll play games. I was like, okay, so we added that in right away. And so Click and Connect average 17 people every Friday afternoon. And we share between, staff leading, candidates leading. Sometimes we have special guests come in, talk about things. Our topics range from everything. So we've done self-care right up to the history of Halloween. Most recently, we did ghost stories, which we discovered in another Click and Connect that people prefer it to talk about those things. They like to be scared.
Yeah.
And our advice at the end of that one was watch a comedy show, right? Because
yeah. So I think, Melanie, what we did is when we created these virtual sessions, we sort of developed them in the format of a learning circle or sharing circle, right?
Nice.
And so one of the key pieces for the learning circle is really that it has to be participant driven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why we have so much buy-in from our participants, is they actually dictate what's actually going to happen during these sessions. Right. And then I think the other piece that's really a really neat thing that's happened is that reflexive period, right? Where people have to reflect upon discussions and have dialogue with each other. And I think, Shawna, that Click and Connect is just a nice way to end the week. It's always cheerful, very, very positive. Lots of laughter.
Lots, yeah. This Click and Connect that just passed, we did on autumn. So everything autumn, we learned what the equinox means. We learned what it means on one side of the world versus the other. And maybe it was snowing. It was so like people were so relaxed and candid with each other. It was amazing to see. And you never know how a topic's going to be taken. So you're like, I don't know, is this a good one? Let's just try it and see. And it does end up being the participants. They're the ones who make it what it is.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it sounds to me like you guys, you know, when COVID first hit and the whole world stopped and we had to cancel everything. And I remember, you know, being in my house having nothing to do because my schedule had been wiped clear. That you guys quickly got on to ideas and creativity and ways of connecting people to your service, to your job finding service. And then more so than that, you guys worked to transform that into a way for people to connect, not only to keep learning about job search or interviewing or Equinox, but also about connecting with each other. And that the people who have engaged in that, who have, you know, learned about the technology, taken a risk, engaged socially to meet with other people, have really found a community, a new place of belonging, of membership that they can turn to every week. And even as things have opened up over the last few months, you're still finding that those people are coming and gathering to that Click and Connect community every Friday, because they're able to then bring up the topics for discussion. They're able to have ownership over what's, you know, what's being shared,
Absolutely.
Learn a little bit and make new friends.
Yeah.
Sure.
We
I think
actually, go ahead, Steve. Yeah.
I think the spillover is that we've actually have a participant run her own coffee sessions.
Yeah. I was just going to say that.
Yeah. So for me, actually, that was something interesting, because now people are developing relationships outside of these sessions independently of us.
Yes.
And, you know, they ask about each other. Wow. So when I'm doing one-on-ones, they're like, how's Jim doing?
Cool.
Did he get that certificate he talked about? You know, or can you let Sherry know that, you know, you need level 2 for daycare now? They should get on that. Like, very candid, but concerning of each other's well-being.
Right.
And as before, they wouldn't have that. And now they know they're not alone. So I'm not the only one looking for a job. I'm not the only one struggling for connection.
Yeah. So I see that we only have about 5 minutes left, guys, but Shawna, can you give me, can you give us a little kind of a summary of, you know, for folks that are a little anxious about meeting online, you know, what's a way that they might be able to start with, you know, kind of online gatherings in a way that maybe isn't so anxiety provoking?
Well, what I let everybody know is showing up is the hardest part.
True.
So please come. Don't share your screen. Yeah. Keep it off. Yeah. Turn your mic off. You don't have to speak. and we used the chat. So every meeting we had designate someone to like watch the chat so that no one is left behind.
Nice.
And we actually, this Friday, we had someone who always answers in the chat, and she'll conversate back and forth, but when we do a checkout at the end, and she'll say, I'll just type mine. And so everyone does a one word checkout. And so the host said, okay, got to her, and she's like, I wrote it in the chat, but I want to say it out loud too. And she said, that was educational. That was her checkout. And so for me, that is another step for that individual, because now she's slowly got herself out of the chat. And awesome. For me, that is the goal, is to get people talking and feeling comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also there's a gentleman, I was just chatting with one of our team, and they were just saying a gentleman's going to do his own presentation, but he doesn't want to do it live, so we're going to record it so he can present it to Click and Connect on Friday. So again, that's another extra step for people. So people aren't just standing still. I think they're actually becoming more independent, and their self-esteem has actually increased significantly.
Mm-hmm.
And with the individual you're talking about, Steve, he wanted to present it to me. So it was our Jane's Walk project.
Yes.
So he came, he watched everybody's, he didn't do one. And then he, without being prompted, went out and did one. And he let his career consultant know, I want to show her and I want to know what she thinks. And it was excellent. It was actually in the same neighborhood I grew up in. So I could connect. So when I asked him, when do you want to share? He said, never. And I said, let's figure out how we can do this. And so we decided, how about we record it ahead of time? And that's another part of, you know, the comfort and inclusion for everyone can participate. And it's not the traditional way. You don't have to be broadcasting live. You get to decide how you're going to put that out there.
Yeah.
So I think, Melanie, with all this new information we're getting on people, it actually makes our jobs easier as far as finding people jobs, because we get to know these folks really, really, really well.
Yes.
And so when you're marketing someone, we never actually talk about disabilities. When we talk to employers, we talk about people's strengths and their interests. And so now, I'm sure, Shawna, you'll agree, now we have lots of information to go chat with employers.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
We have a more rounded view, not just my opinion or Steve's opinion. It's
our opinion,
our community. That's the biggest key, is that we're a part of each other's community. One thing I didn't mention, which I think I will, is that what I tell all the staff when they are hosting is, you know, it's not staff and candidate, it's a community. We're all equal here. You know, we're not authority here. We're just a couple of people hanging out on a Friday afternoon waiting for the weekend.
Yeah. And I think, you're right. It removes that power imbalance.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I just think that social support, having connections with people, being able to talk with, people who share similar interests or similar life circumstances is so important, particularly this year, but all years. I mean, it's just important for our mental and physical health. So I just, in our last few seconds here on our YouTube video, just really want to encourage people to meet up in whatever way you can, whether it be through Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or whatever medium you have, taking that opportunity to connect with people, to find that community, to find that support that you need. And you guys have just brought some amazing examples of how CAES has brought that to life and how CAS has done that. So thank you so much for sharing your stories today.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks so much, guys. And you have a wonderful week.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.